With the release of Lost Caverns of Ixalan, we have 4 new Commander Precons coming, each focused on a specific creature type. And today we're looking at the Veloci-Ramp-Tor deck, the Dinosaur Typal Nihilist. Is this deck all roar and no claws? Well, let's take a look at our box legend Pantlaza, Sunfavored. This 5-mana 4/4 dino reads, whenever Pantlaza, Sunfavored, or another dinosaur enters the battlefield under your control, you may discover X, where X is that creature's toughness. Do this only once each turn. Discover is supposedly our new fixed Cascade. That can be variable values and lets us put the card to our hand if we choose not to cast it. I like this change, but let's see if we get anything more exciting than just dinos entering the battlefield triggers. Not that Pantlaza here isn't good. 2 spells for the cost of 1 is great, and triggering from enters the battlefield rather than on cast means some blink and flicker tricks can get us really scary. But only triggering on dinos means we've got to be a dinosaur deck, and in my opinion, that's kind of boring. But of course, Pantlaza isn't our only new legend. We've also got Wayta Trainer Prodigy, a 3-mana 1/5 with haste. She reads, 2 and a green, tap, target creature you control fights another target creature. This ability costs 2 less to activate if it targets 2 creatures you control. If a creature you control being dealt damage causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Now this ability is very interesting. Initially reading a lot like Ulvenwald Tracker, she can get very fighty. Until you get to the part where causing your creatures to fight each other can start doubling up on damage triggers. That really gets my creative juices flowing, so let's see what we can do to pivot the deck towards Wayta's ability and cause a little pain, especially to our own creatures. But first, let's take a look at some of the new cards in the Precon, because there are some real winners here and some new strong inclusions for what I think is a lot of decks. Starting with Bronzebeak Foragers. This 4-mana 3/4 dino says, when Bronzebeak Foragers enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent that player controls until Bronzebeak Foragers leaves the battlefield. And for X and a white, you can put target card with mana value X exiled with Bronzebeak Foragers into its owner's graveyard, and gain X life. This is a grasp of fate on a body that can later eat the cards it exiles. That alone is fantastic, especially because it's an on-enters ability. It means once you've munched through the exiled cards, you can blink them to do it again. The strength here is being able to deal with commanders quickly, and it's much easier to reuse than enchantments that do the same thing. If you need to exile something smaller, even a Soul Ring, being able to eat it right away and get it out of play is great. I like this one a lot. Then we have Progenitor's Icon. On initial glance, this one looks like any other 3-mana rock, until you see that not only does it add 1 mana of any color, but you can choose a creature type on enters the battlefield, and by tapping it, can cast a creature of the chosen type as though it had Flash. In any typal strategy, this mana rock does work, and really helps support underrepresented creature types too. It's flexible, and being able to surprise opponents with a shocker blocker, or give a creature pseudo haste by casting it at the end of an opponent's turn is very handy. I can see this one being in demand eventually. Let's not forget Scion of Calamity, a 5-mana 5/5 dino. They have Myriad, one of my favorite abilities, which makes a copy of itself attacking each opponent that wasn't declared an attacker against. On top of this, when this big beefy boy deals combat damage to a player, you get to blow up an artifact or enchantment that player controls. That makes this guy a little like Trigon Predator, except you don't have to feel bad about who to attack, since you attack everyone. Not only does he work in dinosaur typal decks, but also works really well with token doubling strategies too. With a Parallel Lives or a Mondrak Glory Dominus out, you can be sending 2 5/5s at opponents, or 4 5/5s. Or 8 5/5s. This chompy lad is going to see play in a few decks, I'm sure about it. Lastly, there's Wrathful Raptors. Another 5-mana 5/5 dino, this one's red with trample and reads, whenever a dinosaur you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that isn't a dinosaur. This one is a nasty effect, and one that is critical to a deck revolving around Wayta and fighting amongst ourselves. but also really dissuades opponents from swinging into dinos that can block, or chump blocking dinos for fear of extra damage going straight to the dome. The damage from the Raptor's trigger comes from the dino that was damaged too. So if your dino with lifelink takes a few hits, you get to double up on that lifelink from the damage it deals in combat to the damage it deals on the Raptor's trigger. When you add in some of Red's damage-based board wipes, like Blasphemous Act or Star of Extinction, this could be a game over for opponents without even needing to do much at all. Now, for the very hard choice of the cuts. Where can we trim the deck to turn it from a dinosaur typal list into one that's more fighty, caring about our dinos snapping at each other and our opponents? Let's start with one of my mottos, always cut from the top. The deck out of the box is so top heavy with monsters like Zakama, Zatalpa, and Wakening Sun's Avatar, costing 8 and 9 mana and being pretty mediocre in the deck at best, largely inclusions for the sake of being dinosaurs. This means that we don't need to keep them, especially if, at these costs, they're just going to sit uselessly in our hands all game long. Along those same lines, Verdant Sun's Avatar, Thundering Spineback, and Rampaging Brothadon all have merit in being massive attackers, but they end up being gratuitous. With just 1 to 2 overwhelmingly large threats in the deck, will function perfectly fine without us getting upset that we drew a 7-cost creature on turn 2 instead of a land or a ramp spell when we really needed it. Apart from that, cards within are decent to downright good. We could push it and cut some of the dino-based mana dorks like Otepec Huntmaster or Drover of the Mighty in favor of generic dorks like Llanowar Elves or Elvish Mystics, but it's not strictly necessary. In place of trimming the deck's massive top end, what do we add in now? Well, if Wayta is our commander, we have to put in creatures that trigger when they're damaged, meaning Brash Taunter and Stuffy Doll. These are part of the reason we want to pivot the deck, since fighting our own creatures lets us throw twice as much damage around the table at any target we want. It's effects like these two and Wrathful Raptors that will keep us able to take care of anything in our way. Along those same lines, we have Boros Reckoner too. Dealing 2 damage to this 3/3 in a fight caused by Wayta lets us throw 4 damage around in any way we want. Spite-Mare, for 1 more mana, gives us the same effect too, letting us crash our creatures into each other, or opponents' creatures, and start throwing damage around. Since we're getting fighty, Ulvenwald Tracker makes a decent addition to the deck. Spot removal and a way to enable these on-damage triggers however we want is incredibly helpful. Being a repeatable source while coming down very early in the game means that he's a perfect way to help bring our very high mana curve down even further. There are a few more dinos like Siegehorn Ceratops and Trapjaw Tyrant that make excellent additions to the deck. We already have several enraged dinos in the list like Ranging Raptors and Ripjaw Raptors, and being able to double up on value by crashing a Brash Taunter into an enraged creature with Wayta's ability, well, that's what this is all about. The last enraged creature I want in the list is Cacophodon. This guy is an underrated combo engine. On Enrage, he helps untap a permanent you control. When that doubles thanks to Wayta's ability, you can untap Wayta and a land, allowing you to do this over and over again. So you can crash a Brash Taunter into a Cacophodon 4 times in a turn, throwing 8 damage around and staying entirely mana neutral. If we have ways to pump Cacophodon's toughness with counters or anthems, we can do this again and again and again. It's a perfect little engine. Next, if we have all of these on-damage trigger creatures in the list, we have to try for the blowout win with more damage-based board wipes. Blasphemous Act and Chain Reaction can combo with our Enrage creatures or on-damage redirection creatures to create massive waves of damage sent at opponents. Chandra's Ignition is already in the deck, which is a fantastic reprint, and can serve the same purpose when cast on one of our big dinos. Now onto the mana base. Let me tell you, these 3-color Precon mana bases are rough. Tap lands into tap lands into tap lands. The thriving lands are poor choices over just more basics, and lands like Myriad Landscape, Temple of the False God, and Mosswort Bridge could all easily be affordable lands like the Pain lands, which provide colored mana when needed and colorless mana when they aren't needed. New players shy away from these because, ow, damage, but the versatility of a land that enters untapped and makes colored mana when you need it is unparalleled. And I don't understand the logic of including one of the check lands and not the others. They make for easy inclusions in this list. With most of our ramp searching basics only, along with cards like Evolving Wilds or Terramorphic Expanse, did you know that there are fewer basics in the deck than you're able to search up? Let's add a few more in for the sake of tightening our nuts and bolts. Now lastly, the upgrade. There are a lot of previously expensive pieces already in the deck that I would have recommended here, like Rishkar's Expertise, Descendant's Path, and Xenagos God of Revels, meaning any kind of major upgrade I would recommend would be to the mana base. Adding in a Triome like Jetmir's Garden makes a great fetch target for ramp like 3 Visits and Nature's Lore. These 3 cards alone would make such a significant impact on the deck's smoothness of play, it's shocking. Battle lands like Spire Garden, Spectator Seeding, and Bountiful Promenade could really help improve the deck's playability too. Never count out lands that make multiple colors of mana and enter the battlefield untapped. If we really wanted to add some significant dollars to the list, Urza's Incubator would help power out a lot of our dinos so much quicker. Paying 2 less for the majority of our creatures is always helpful, especially when we have several that cost 4, 5, and 6 mana in the deck. But the biggest addition, from a benefit standpoint and a price standpoint, would be the Great Henge. This bad boy is still $50 after being reprinted in the Lord of the Rings set, mostly because it's always really good. The card draw, mana generation, and life gain is always relevant regardless of the deck. Let me know what you think of this upgrade in the comments below, and if you've got any suggestions for additions, be sure to share them. And be sure to check out my sponsor, Face to Face Games. They're Canada's largest game store and have all of the singles and sealed product you're looking for, including these new Caverns of Ixalan Precons. Use my promo code MECHANIC for 5% off of your order today. And be sure to check out the updated deck list, linked in the description, at my sponsor Moxfield. Moxfield is the best deck building platform in the world and helps track changes to decks through their easy-to-use history feature. While you're over on their site, be sure to follow my profile to never miss a new brew. Don't miss any of these other videos on the channel either. If you were inspired to build today, you have to hit that subscribe button. And as always, folks, good luck and have fun.